Sri Lanka's most powerful news brand.
A very good evening and welcome to Primetime News live here on Newsfirst. We're coming to you direct from the Newsfirst studios in Colombo. I'm Mahina Bongzo.
Good evening, I'm Shahin Dharampati. Let's start off with a look at your headlines. 5 missing Sri Lankan fishermen rescued by Iranian vessel. CEB workers in hunger strike as train strike ends. Hidden stocks of urea fertilizer released to the market. Further delays in importing fertilizer.
The footage you just saw was captured on the 29th of last month when a group of 5 Sri Lankan fishermen were rescued by an Iranian vessel in the Iran maritime boundary. The rescued fishermen landed at the Bandaranaike International Airport last evening.
The 5 fishermen, Sujit Priyanta, K. Sugat, Dinesh Priyanta, Prabhat Kumara and Nuwan Kumara set out to sea on the 10th of October from Mirissa. They set out to sea on a multi-day fishing trawler named Tanga. The incident was reported at around 10 p.m. while the trawler was sailing from the Iran maritime boundary. The fishermen said that after the trawler toppled, they had rested till morning on top of the trawler. Later that morning, a vessel passing the stranded fishermen had spotted them and taken measures to rescue the group.
It was 1:30 in the morning. The boat toppled with the wave that came in. We were shivering. It was cold. We were on top of the boat. We had minor wounds. We were soaked in diesel. If we were left there for a day or more, I do not know what would have happened to the 5 lives. There is a storm. There are no boats in that region even. When the ship came close, it was around 7:30. We did not think that it would come close to us. They must have seen us from far. We were waving our t-shirts. We were in tears. I remembered everyone at home, my children and family. We were praying to the gods, asking that we be rescued.
Later, the Sri Lankan fishermen were handed over to the Sri Lankan embassy in Iran.
Railway trade unions called off their strike action today after a discussion with the Cabinet subcommittee. The strike action, which was in effect for 7 days, has caused Sri Lanka Railways a loss of over 110 million rupees.
Railway trade unions held a meeting with the Cabinet subcommittee at Sitsiripaya, Battaramulla.
The committee unanimously decided to reformulate the railway, health and education services as separate services. These recommendations are scheduled to be presented at the next cabinet meeting. All examinations in this regard and recruitment will be suspended until the committee meets again. The committee also agreed to convene all trade unions and discuss the salary issues. It was also agreed that no official who took part in this trade union action would be penalized. In return, the train strike was called off immediately.
පරිදි දුම්රිය වැඩ වර්ජනය අවසන් වේ. අනුතුමා දැන් මේ 23,030 මේ වියදුරු සහායක සඳහා මේ විභාගය පැවැත්වීම නියෝජිතව තිබ්බා. දැන් ඒක අවශ්‍ය නෑ.
It has not been cancelled. We have directed this to the Attorney General. We came to an agreement where the trade unions decided to call off their strike. Thereby, after next Tuesday, we will sit down for an extensive discussion to resolve the rest of the issues. We called off our strike after a successful discussion. Railway regulators, guards and station masters and 2 engineers unions were represented at this meeting. They all agreed to this.
මේ අවස්ථාවේදී ඒ සියලුම සංගම් අපි නියෝජනය කරා. ඔවුන් සියලු දෙනාම මේ එකකතාවයට පැමිණියා.
We express our regret for the inconvenience caused to the general public and the government because of us. We are sorry it had to go down to this situation, but this situation was a result of the wrong actions of the administration.
Railway trade unions said even though the strike ended, all railway operations cannot be restored today. They added railway operations will function at full capacity by tomorrow morning.
No, the government did not kneel, but I believe in taking action for not following the Essential Services Order which was passed in Parliament. We discussed this matter in Cabinet yesterday as well. It is over now and they are reporting to work. We have decided to separate the railway, health and education services. So when the salaries of the railway service is increased, the other sectors won't be affected.
As railway trade unions decided to call off their strike, 32 trade unions of the Ceylon Electricity Board have launched a hunger strike.
The hunger strike opposite the CEB head office in Colombo was launched 3 days ago. They are demanding that authorities call off a proposed reduction of annual bonuses and incentives for medical leave. A group including engineers reported to work during a recent CEB strike, and a decision was taken to repay these engineers an additional amount which was 4 times or 3 times the daily wage. The protesting trade unions opposed this payment as well. A discussion was held today between the Secretary to the Ministry of Power and Renewable Energy and the trade union leaders.
They admitted that the engineering mafia within the CEB are creating severe crisis. A certain group of engineers who are very much involved with the business community have been taken under the grip of CEB GM. The minister has also convinced the government this is a serious problem. The ministry accepts our criticism of this mafia. So they said our bonuses will be paid without any reduction. But we will not call off our hunger strike until this verbal consent is given to us in writing.
The Ceylon Electricity Board has incurred a loss of around 50 billion rupees since the beginning of 2017. Energy experts say the non-implementation of the long-term generation expansion plan by this excessively loss-making enterprise has created a challenge to the country's future power supply.
Amidst this situation right now, we may have to go for an emergency procurement of electricity. And we know the consequences of this. We might have to stay in darkness or have to pay extra for electricity. We will have to pay directly through the bills to cover the losses of the CEB. So both the government and CEB engineers should be held responsible for this. Those who are taking part in political struggles without any clue of the situation are also responsible.
Convening a media briefing, Petroleum Trade Unions issued a warning.
A shipment of aircraft fuel imported by the IOC has been deemed to be substandard. According to the first sample testing, it is deemed substandard. I would also like to inform that this petrol was imported by the government in contravention of our tender procedures. They paid $3 extra per ton of petrol, but what they imported is substandard.
Again, we will experience a petrol crisis if a vessel with proper quality does not arrive in 14 days. The petrol requirement has increased. If you look at the numbers, earlier our requirement was met with 68 shipments. This fuel can only be unloaded at the Muthurajawala Buoy or at the Dolphin Pier. It is coming to a point where these two locations cannot handle our shipments. If something happens to them, we will face a serious issue. We need at least 24 tanks to store petrol that is required for a month. The only solution are the tanks in Trincomalee. However, the government is taking steps to hand it over to the IOC. A cabinet paper was released to provide 100 petrol stations to China in Hambantota. If everything goes accordingly, China and India will have total control.
As promised, we now cross over live to Newsfirst Zulfiq Farzan, who is at the Echelon Square in Colombo. Zulfiq will be giving us the latest on the bond scam situation. He's been following the investigations and the inquiry commission very closely. And Zulfiq, what's the latest?
A very good evening and welcome to News First. You're joining me live here from the News First Christmas Center located in the heart of Colombo at Echelon Square, where we have set up a News First Christmas Center for everyone to come and visit and have a wonderful time here in Echelon Square. Now in 2015, an incident took place which is now known as the largest financial scam in Sri Lankan history. We at News First were the first to expose this fraudulent activity, and right now, following court investigations and several other inquiries, a presidential commission of inquiry was appointed, and we are anticipating the report where the president has given a deadline, the 31st of December. So during the past few years, when this bond scam took place and the incidents that followed, several issues arose with the appointment of several committees and thereafter the investigations carried out by CORP itself. When the Presidential Commission of Inquiry was appointed in January this year, The mandate of this commission was extended several times, mainly because of the complexity of this investigation. It was extended in April, July, October and in November, as well as now the extension granted until the 31st of December. During this period, certain incidents took place in Sri Lanka, and there's a social dialogue drawing a comparison between these incidents. One of the main incidents is when the Prime Minister was to testify on a Monday morning at the Presidential Commission of Inquiry, suddenly a fuel shortage arose on Sunday. So there's a social dialogue that is bringing these two incidents together. With regard to this bond irregularity, or the bond scam as it is commonly known, many experts have pointed out the losses regarding this. The Auditor General himself says the immediate loss because of the two questionable bond issuances is over 1.6 billion. Former Deputy Governor of the Central Bank, W.A. Vijayawardena, says it could exceed 40 billion, and recently we had a State Minister saying it could even exceed 1 trillion. When the bond incident took place on the 27th of February 2015, several incidents followed, and social dialogue is now building up, saying that those incidents were in fact an attempt to cover up the bond scam. Let's now have a look at what followed that bond auction.
Have we forgotten?
After the bond issue made headlines, Prime Minister Ranil Wickremesinghe appointed the three-member Pitipana committee. This committee cleared Mahendran of any involvement with the bond issue. The Prime Minister thereafter made a statement to Parliament on the 17th of March 2015 defending the actions of Arjuna Mahendran regarding the bond issue. COPE of the 7th Parliament, chaired by D.E.W. Gunasekara, was tasked to investigate the bond issue. Sadly, Parliament was dissolved for elections before it could release its report. Prime Minister Ranil Wickremesinghe says he was not given an opportunity to give evidence before the Parliamentary Committee on Public Enterprises. The Colombo District Court issued an enjoining order preventing the publication and circulation of the draft report by COPE on bonds. The petition was filed by UNP's Sujiva Senasinghe. The injunction was later dissolved. Thereafter, COPE of the 8th Parliament, chaired by Sunil Handunetti, investigated the bond issue and found former Central Bank Governor Arjuna Mahendran responsible for the bond issue. UNP COPE members added footnotes to the report, and one of them was Sujiva Senasinghe. COPE chairman said there is a clear difference in the report and the footnotes. Public outcry continued. President appointed the Presidential Commission of Inquiry to investigate the matter.
Have we forgotten?
The President has granted a deadline to the 31st of December 2017 for the Presidential Commission of Inquiry to hand over their report. Now, we have been informed that sometimes this report will be handed over before the 31st of December and sometimes maybe in the coming week. Now, with regard to the bond issuance, this topic was raised in the cabinet meeting today as well, and Minister Dayasiri Jayasekara had this to say.
There
are various types of newspapers, even bond newspapers. There are some journalists who target one politician and keep attacking. It is part of their contract or because of some personal agenda. These types of media institutions are disgusting. One paper recently reports that Jayasekara enters the game with regard to the situation about the team being turned back. The Bond paper writes that I am acting out a drama. It is all right. This is what happens when you steal from the country and create a newspaper. There is no law. They see my actions which are in line with the law as drama.
Now, the JVP, or the Janata Vimukti Peramuna, which has been very critical about the bond issue and certain other malpractices that have taken place, they expressed the following views today.
People are waiting for the thieves who stole from the central bank to come to the village. They are waiting because they are frightened that they will steal from the Samruddhi Bank as well as their cupboards. They stole when they constructed roads. They stole when they constructed canals. When they laid concrete, it was substandard and broke down within a year. The former councillors have become owners of the roads now. One day they will have to live on the road. The government, after identifying this, have made strides to distribute goods. They distribute clocks, various types of grains were distributed. They are distributing various equipment and are handing out forms for housing loans.
You're joining News First. Let's have a look at the cartoon of the day. The tenure of the Presidential Commission of Inquiry into the bond issue will end in 18 days. The people await the decision of the Bond Commission.
Parliamentarians Ravi Karnanayaka and Nama Rajapaksa expressed similar sentiments regarding the Police Financial Crimes Investigations Division today.
The people are asking us, where are the thieves? Why haven't you taken action? I am greatly saddened about the CID and the FCID. They catch small fry but don't manage to catch the sharks. The sharks slip through their nets. This is a joke.
The FCID is leading the hunt on behalf of the government. They are misleading the Attorney General's department. They have not reported about some statements. They have not written down some statements properly. We don't even get the proper documents for some cases. The FCID is misleading the police, the court and the Attorney General's department.
The FCID has become the common enemy of the bond gang as well. These thieves have gotten together to put the entire blame on the FCID. We saw this since the FCID was established. The Rajapaksa family and their stooges stated from day one that the FCID was established to lead a political witch hunt. Today these thieves and the thieves in power today are berating the FCID. I think this is the biggest deal in recent memory. Both parties want to destroy the forces that are chasing after their crimes. They want to create a free environment for them to rob. Following relentless reporting, stocks of urea fertilizer that had been withheld are now entering the market. The Ceylon Fertilizer Company has released 10,000 metric tons of fertilizer into the market. Cabinet approval has been granted to import a stock of urea fertilizer by the 28th of this month.
Newsfirst has been reporting on a shortage of urea fertilizer in the district of Ampara, Anuradhapura and Kurunegala over the past several days. Farmers stated they engaged in cultivations after a number of seasons. However, their cultivations are at a risk of being destroyed due to the lack of fertilizer. The fertilizer company noted that consignments of 24 tons of fertilizer were dispatched to 42 different locations. 4 lorries carrying fertilizer arrived at the Ampara fertilizer warehouse today. However, farmers claims that they are only being issued 2 sacks of fertilizer each.
A Sri Lankan expatriate organisation called on the chief prelate of the Malwatu chapter of the Siam sect, Most Venerable Tibbatuave Sri Sumangala Thera.
A program must be introduced to assist the farmers. Farmers in villages are helpless without any fertilizer for their crops. If you can arrange a program for these poor farmers to get some fertilizer, it would be good. It would be better if you could help them with their lives. That is what religion is all about. You have to do it. Just talking won't help. Showing what you do will help you get more assistance. The Sirasa Media Institution is doing a lot of help to these people. Similarly, you two, who are living overseas, gather other organizations to do things like this.
What happened at the discussions between the Sri Lanka Freedom Party and joint opposition? The SLFP made clarifications in this regard today. They can talk, there is no issue. There isn't a reason to kill each other. We can talk to each other. I honestly don't know. The president is carrying on a program to unite the Sri Lanka Freedom Party, but another group is trying to split it. So we will see in the future the difference between those who are trying to unite the party and those who are trying to split it. The last discussion we had was unsuccessful. Dilan Pereira pleaded as much as he could. I did not go to plead from anyone. We tried as much as we can. They were the ones who sabotaged it. GL Piri said he was sleepy and left. He himself admitted they are trying to split. One is Prasanna Ranatunga, the other is who you speak of. It is Namal Rajapaksa and a few other.
Former President Mahinda Rajapaksa, MP Namal Rajapaksa and Basil Rajapaksa prevented the possibility of unification. That is how we see it. We can assume that Basil did so to protect himself, while Mahinda might have taken this decision to ensure that the leadership of the party and the country remains within his family.
A group of activists of the Joint Opposition and United National Party have pledged their allegiance to the Sri Lanka Freedom Party.
Former chairman of the Daruniyagala Pradeshya Sabha, Anura Kurupu, and former vice chairman L.T. Wijayawardena met President Maithripala Sirisena at the president's official residence this morning, where they pledged their support to the SLFP. UMP activists, former the Hioviti Pradeshya Sabha chairman Thomas Chaminda and UMP Balamandala secretary for the Daruniyagala, A.V. Priyamtha, also met with the president this morning and crossed over to the Sri Lanka Freedom Party.
A recent statement made by Minister John Amaratunga is drawing a lot of attention at various political forums.
There's nothing to be afraid of. We will beat them and chase them away if someone tries to come in. The government belongs to us, the police belongs to us, everything belongs to us. We do not need to be afraid.
I completely reject the statement made by Minister John Amaratunga. We do not engage in that form of politics anymore. Next time I meet him, I will tell him to refrain from making such comments because we will fall in trouble.
We don't know what fear is. When Karu was asked if he would be afraid of walking through a cemetery in the night during the time of clashes, he said, I would be afraid, but my son won't.
The convocation ceremony of the Sri Lanka Institute of Taxation, which is the national body of tax professionals, was held in Colombo yesterday. Among the notable guests were Minister of Special Assignments, Dr. Sarath Amanugama.
If you analyze our economy, one of the major problems we have is that our traditional sources of revenue, particularly exports, have fared badly. So how do we resolve this problem? We have to do that through taxing the people, particularly those who are in a position to pay taxes. And one of the problems we have had is that the defaults, the gap between what we should earn and what we actually earn is very large. And one of the reasons for that is that we don't have enough trained professionals who can enter the taxation field, streamline taxation and ensure that the country gets the benefit of what it should really get by way of taxation. I must say during the last 3 years, the ratio or the contribution of taxation, mainly through inland revenue, through customs and through the excise, they have come up, and those are the main areas in which the government earns a revenue.
A photography exhibition depicting the European Union's support to district development in Sri Lanka was held under the title Celebrating Partnerships. The event was organized by the EU in Sri Lanka.
The exhibition captures the work carried out in Southern District to build partnerships and networks of collaboration with individuals and organizations to improve the quality of life for the people.
I think the true spirit of cooperation is really a comprehensive partnership. And if we can call the European Union and the UN our friends, they must be able to frankly exchange their views and our views with them in an atmosphere of friendship and one of working together. So let me, on behalf of the government of Sri Lanka, appreciate the support of the European Union and these UN agencies.
This program, with a total budget of 60 million euros, which equals almost 11 billion rupees, is currently the largest development initiative funded by the EU in Sri Lanka. It is implemented in 7 districts in the north and east with the intention of reducing poverty, developing the local economy, strengthening governance and promoting peace.
The United Nations in Sri Lanka was represented at the event.
Women, young people, children were all the principal beneficiaries of the projects, but actually communities were the winners of the project. Through continued support of many partners, in particular the EU, the UN will continue its support to the most vulnerable.
The inauguration ceremony of the National Conference on Social Work was held under the auspices of Minister of Social Empowerment, Welfare and Kandyan Heritage, S.B. Dissanayake today. The conference is themed Social Work for Poverty Reduction and Sustainable Development.
The two-day conference is organized by the National Institute of Social Development together with UNICEF.
As my own conviction, human poverty is more than an income-related issue. From the human development perspective, it is the denial of choices and opportunities for living a tolerable life. Though our headcount poverty index has declined to a level of 6.7 present in 2016, poverty is still a major social issue which hinders human development. Therefore, eradicating poverty in all its forms and dimension is a challenge, a necessary requirement for sustainable development.
While key indicators of social development such as literacy, life expectancy, etc. shows a significant improvement over the last several decades, individual and family level miseries and troubles have continued to proliferate almost everywhere in the country. On the one hand, we have achieved a high level of social development. But the fact of the matter is that our media, whether you read a newspaper, listen to the news bulletins, you come across a plethora of stories about various individuals and families across the country having serious troubles. There is a puzzle. We have to address this issue.
The Chief of the Indian Air Force, Air Chief Marshal Birendra Singh Dhanoa, engaged in a tour of the Temple of the Sacred Tooth relic this morning.
The Air Chief Marshal was accompanied by several officers of the Sri Lankan Air Force. He also called on the Diya Vadana Nilame of the Temple of the Sacred Tooth relic Nilanga Dala Bandara and exchanged mementos. The Indian Air Force Chief then visited the Museum of World Buddhism in Kandy.
And that is a wrap of Primetime News. Thank you very much for watching. I'm Shahin Jarampati.
And I'm Mahina Bongzo. Good night.